Look closer. The next time it happens, you'll be in a conversation, a meeting, a dinner, a podcast playing in the background, and someone will say something that doesn't sound like anyone else in the room. Not louder, not more polished, stranger. They reference a 17th century essayist in the same breath as a piece of code. They tell you something about your own profession that nobody in your profession would say out loud. Then they go quiet. You'll feel it before you can name it. That person is rare. Not rare like a unicorn, special, sweet, harmless. Rare like a compound that doesn't form naturally in this climate, and dangerous in a way the room won't realize until much later when whatever they were about to do is already done. This is about why that person exists, why there are so few, and why the system can't see them coming. The first is symmetry, a mind built from raw materials. The phrase self-taught has been laundered to the point of meaninglessness. Watching tutorials, isn't it? Reading 3 popular books and quoting them at dinner parties, isn't it? The actual definition is colder, and it explains why this kind of person is statistically rare. A self-taught mind is one that was built without a kit. Most education hands you a pre-assembled cognitive architecture. The textbook tells you what the questions are. The professor tells you the answers. The syllabus orders them. The exam tells you what mattered. The grade tells you whether you understood. You don't construct the building. You walk through it after someone else built it. Take photographs of the rooms and call that an education. The self-taught mind sources its own raw materials. It decides what the questions are. It discovers the order. It evaluates its own progress without a grade. It figures out which sources are credible without anyone telling it. And it does all of this while doubting at every step whether it's even competent to make those calls. Most people will not survive that. Robert Greene often points out that mastery is never handed to you through external validation. It is built by learning to trust your own observations, questioning accepted ideas, and developing an internal standard that does not depend on approval. Albert Bandura spent 4 decades at Stanford studying what he called self-efficacy, the internal belief that you can produce the outcomes you intend to produce. The foundational paper landed in 1977. The full framework in his 1997 book, Self-Efficacy, The Exercise of Control. His central finding, replicated across thousands of studies since, is uncomfortable. Self-efficacy is the single strongest predictor of whether a person completes difficult learning. More powerful than IQ, more powerful than family background, more powerful than the quality of the teacher. And the part that matters most, self-efficacy cannot be installed. It can only be earned. You build it by surviving repeated cycles of attempting something hard, failing, adjusting, and succeeding without anyone catching you when you fall. Every time someone steps in to save you from the struggle, it weakens. Every time you climb out alone, it strengthens. The credentialed system was designed with the best intentions to catch students before they fall. The self-taught person was never caught. They fell, they got up alone. That produces an internal architecture built from different materials. They were calibrated by reality instead of by other people's expectations. And when they walk into a room, the people who are calibrated by reviews and grades and approval can sense it. Something doesn't compute. They can't place where this person ranks. That's the first reason they're dangerous. The ranking system doesn't work on them. Quick pause. If you've been with Mindplicit for a while, you know I don't ask for much, but this matters. So listen for 30 seconds. YouTube demonetized this channel. The advertisers don't want this kind of material reaching you. So everything I can't say here, the raw uncensored breakdowns, the algorithm punishes me for lives on Patreon now. The members-only videos, the audio podcast, the full written scripts, the frameworks I can describe in public, but can't actually teach in public. It's $4.99 a month. Less than a coffee for the half of this channel YouTube won't let me publish. If the work here has hit, the work over there cuts deeper. Click the link in the description and join me on Patreon. The door's open. Back to the video. Consider what happened in 1913. A 25-year-old shipping clerk in Madras posted a letter to G.H. Hardy at Cambridge. Inside the envelope were roughly some 20 mathematical theorems, handwritten in a script that looked to a Cambridge mathematician like the work of an obsessive amateur. Many of the results had no proofs attached. Many used notation no formally trained mathematician used. Hardy nearly tossed it. He went on a walk. He came back. He read it again. And then he realized something extraordinary. Several of the theorems were so strange, so unconventional that, as Hardy later wrote, no one would have had the imagination to invent them. A fraud couldn't have produced this. A working academic couldn't have produced this. Only someone who had genuinely discovered the mathematics on his own from scratch with almost no exposure to the European tradition could have produced it. Srinivasa Ramanujan had taught himself mathematics from a single book, G.S. Carr's Synopsis of Pure Mathematics, a dense catalogue of formulas, mostly without proofs. He'd had to derive his own. In doing so, he developed mathematical intuitions that the entire trained community of Cambridge had never developed because they had never been forced to. Rare because the architecture was rare. Dangerous because once Hardy started publishing his work, an entire establishment had to confront something deeply destabilizing. A man with no formal training had been doing mathematics they couldn't follow. Now picture how that scales beyond mathematics. The second asymmetry: they don't outsource truth. Most people have never genuinely verified anything they believe. Listen to that again. The things you know about history, about economics, about psychology, about the inner workings of your own body, almost none of it has been verified by you. It was handed to you by someone you trusted, who got it from someone they trusted, who at some point in the chain may or may not have done the actual verification. You're holding belief because of social proximity, not because of inspection. In 2002, two cognitive scientists named Leonid Rosenblit and Frank Keel published a paper at Yale on what they called the illusion of explanatory depth. The experiment was simple. They asked subjects to rate on a scale of 1 to E7 how well they understood how a common object worked: a zipper, a ballpoint pen, a flush toilet. Most people rated themselves a 4, 5, or 6. Then they were asked to write a detailed step-by-step explanation. The ratings collapsed. When pushed to actually produce the mechanism, not just describe it abstractly, but walk through the causal chain, most people couldn't. They had mistaken familiarity for understanding. They had been around zippers their whole lives. They had never once examined one. This is most knowledge most people hold about most things. Familiarity dressed up as understanding. And it's the default condition because human beings are not built for individual epistemic verification. We're built for social epistemics. We outsource truth-checking to the tribe, the institution, the expert, the algorithm. It's cognitively cheap and it usually works, until it doesn't. Robert Greene repeatedly reminds us that people who rely entirely on accepted opinions become predictable, while those who test ideas against reality develop an independence that institutions cannot easily shape. The self-taught person has had to break this default mode by necessity. Without a professor to certify their understanding, without a syllabus to confirm they're on the right track, they were forced to develop something the system actively atrophies in everyone else: the habit of checking, the habit of running their own confirmations, the habit of asking, wait, do I actually understand this? Or have I just been around it long enough that it feels familiar? Eric Hoffer is the case I want you to remember. He never went to school. His mother died when he was a child. His father died when he was 18. He worked as a migrant farm worker through the Great Depression and spent the last 25 years of his working life as a longshoreman on the San Francisco docks, loading and unloading cargo ships. He read constantly in public libraries between shifts with no professor guiding him. In 1951, he published The True Believer, a small book about the psychology of mass movements written from raw observation and self-directed reading. Dwight Eisenhower kept a copy on his desk. The book is now considered a foundational text in social psychology and political theory. It is cited in coursework at universities Hoffer never set foot in. The man wrote with a clarity about the mechanics of fanaticism that credentialed sociologists of his era could not produce because he had not been trained to flatter the prevailing assumptions of any academic faction. He had verified everything in his head against what he could see in his own life on the docks, in the breadlines, in the political rallies of the 1930s. He had no faction to defend. He had no career to protect. His truth was his own. That's the second reason this kind of person is dangerous. They are nearly impossible to capture ideologically. Every other person carries beliefs they've inherited from institutions that need their loyalty to continue functioning. The self-taught person carries beliefs they've personally tested. You cannot threaten them with excommunication from a tribe they were never inside. You cannot scare them with sources they've already checked themselves. The third asymmetry: no borders. Universities are organized by department, and departments are guarded. This isn't a conspiracy. It's simply an organizational consequence. To get tenure, you specialize. To publish, you defend your territory. To be respected, you stay in your lane. Over time, the economist learns to ignore biology. The historian learns to ignore psychology. The literary critic and the statistician sit in offices 300 feet apart and never meet. They speak different vocabularies for the same phenomena. They protect their own. The self-taught person never signed the treaty. Without a department to belong to, they wander. They follow curiosity instead of curriculum. They read a book on neuroscience because the chemistry book referenced it. They read a book on military strategy because the neuroscience book referenced it. They keep going. They don't notice the borders because no one has shown them where the borders are. And then something happens that specialists almost never experience. They begin spotting patterns that exist in two different fields, and then realize that a third field they're holding in their mind connects them in a completely new way. They synthesize. They carry insights across boundaries that everyone else assumed could never be crossed. Robert Greene often explains that originality is rarely created by staying inside one discipline. It emerges when a mind freely connects. Ideas that established systems keep separate. Heinrich Schliemann was a German businessman in the 19th century. He made a fortune in indigo and saltpeter, and then in his 40s, decided to do something his contemporaries considered ridiculous. He decided he was going to find the city of Troy. The professional archaeologists of his era treated Homer's Iliad as poetry, half mythological, geographically vague, useless as a guide to any real ancient city. Schliemann, who had taught himself ancient Greek partly so he could read the Iliad in the original, did something they considered preposterous. He treated the text as a map. He took Homer's descriptions of distances, terrain and city defenses, walked through northwestern Turkey, and began digging at a mound called Hisarlik. He dug too aggressively and damaged things later archaeologists would have wanted preserved. His methods were crude. His claims were sometimes inflated. He made real mistakes that real specialists would not have made. He also found Troy. The mound at Hisarlik turned out to contain at least 9 layered cities stacked over millennia, one of which corresponds to the Trojan War period. A self-taught businessman, with a poet for a guidebook, had located a city the academic discipline had collectively dismissed as a myth. The point is not that Schliemann was right and the specialists were wrong. The point is structural. He could see something they could not see because their training had told them which sources were credible and which were not, and he had never been told. He read Homer the way a child reads instructions. He took the text at its word. The specialists were too sophisticated to do that. Their sophistication became their blindness. And here is where this conversation gets uncomfortable. Because what I've described so far isn't the rarest part of this kind of person. It isn't the danger. The first 3 asymmetries, the self-built architecture, the verified beliefs, the cross-border synthesis, those traits can be found scattered across intelligent, curious people. There are credentialed academics who quietly possess them. There are autodidacts who possess one but not the others. The actual rarity is the combination. And the actual danger isn't intellectual at all. It's something colder. Something I'm going to make you look at directly in a moment. The 4th asymmetry: failure is their teacher, not their verdict. The single most consequential difference between a credentialed mind and a self-taught one isn't IQ, it isn't memory. It isn't even discipline. It's their relationship with being wrong. Every formal educational system trains a student to fear failure. The grade is permanent. The teacher's disapproval is real. Public wrongness in a classroom, the wrong answer in front of 30 peers is a small humiliation. Repeated thousands of times during a person's developmental years, the pattern installs itself. By the time a graduate is 22, being wrong feels like an identity wound, not a data point. Try to start with parameter. Robert Greene repeatedly reminds us that mastery belongs to those who stop treating failure as a judgment of identity and begin using it as information for the next move. The self-taught person has had a different relationship with wrongness from the start. When you teach yourself, there is no teacher to be embarrassed in front of. Your mistakes are not graded. They are punished by something far more useful. The thing you are trying to build doesn't work. The argument falls apart. The code throws an error. The deal collapses. The experiment fails. The wrongness is not social. It's physical. It's mechanical. It costs you time, not status. This produces a small psychological mutation that compounds over years. Anders Ericsson, the cognitive psychologist at Florida State whose research on expertise underlies most modern work on skill acquisition, made a finding most people miss when they cite him. The famous "Go 10,000 hours" idea is the popular distortion of his work. His actual finding is more specific. What distinguishes expert performers from competent ones isn't the volume of practice. It's a particular kind of practice in which the learner repeatedly identifies what they're doing wrong and adjusts in real time. He called it deliberate practice. The structural requirement of deliberate practice is high frequency. Engagement with one's own errors. Listen to that one more time. To get genuinely good at something, you have to be willing to look directly at what you're doing wrong, often without flinching. Most people can't do this for more than a few minutes at a stretch. The ego rebels. The shame system fires. The brain looks for distraction. This is why most students plateau even with massive practice hours. The self-taught person has had to develop this tolerance just to function. Their entire learning method depends on it. Consider what happened. In the early 1900s, in two parallel attempts to invent powered flight, Samuel Pierpont Langley was the secretary of the Smithsonian Institution. He was a credentialed astronomer, a respected scientist, and he secured what was, at the time, an enormous sum, $50,000 from the US War Department, plus another $20,000 from the Smithsonian to build a powered aircraft. He had assistance. He had a press following his progress. He launched his prototype off a houseboat in the Potomac in October 1903. It immediately fell into the river. He launched another in December. Same river, same outcome. 2 months later, two bicycle mechanics from Ohio, Wilbur and Orville Wright, flew a powered aircraft for 12 seconds over the sand at Kitty Hawk. They had no funding, no university, no public attention. They had spent the prior 4 years deliberately crashing gliders and adjusting their wing. Designs one failure at a time. They had built a small window tunnel in their bicycle shop, the first instrument of its kind, because they didn't trust the published aerodynamic data. They checked it and found it wrong. Langley had been trying not to fail in public. The Wright brothers had been failing in private for years and learning from every crash. By the time Langley was forced to retire in humiliation, the Wrights had a flying machine. The lesson is harder than try. Try again. The lesson is that the self-taught person has a different metabolism for being wrong. They process it faster. They extract more from it. They are not slowed by ego because nobody was watching when they failed. Robert Greene repeatedly emphasizes that those who achieve mastery are not the ones who avoid mistakes. They are the ones who study them without allowing pride to interfere. Every failure becomes feedback. Every setback becomes refinement. And every correction moves them further ahead than those who spend their energy protecting their reputation. Robert Greene repeatedly reminds us that real power is never created by possessing more information than everyone else. It comes from developing a way of thinking that cannot be easily categorized. predicted or manipulated. The individual who builds an independent mind eventually becomes someone institutions struggle to influence because their deepest authority no longer comes from the outside, it comes from within. These traits are not gifts, they are deformations. They are what happens when a person spends years learning without anyone confirming they're doing it correctly. This is also why so few people are willing to become this. The years of unverified work are brutal. You will be wrong in private repeatedly for a very long time, and no one will tell you when you finally become right. You have to develop the ability to know it yourself. Most people cannot survive the absence of confirmation. The need for someone to say, "Good job, Marmot," is too deep, installed too early, too central to the operating system. So the rare person stays rare, not because the knowledge is gated, but because the loneliness is. Here is the lingering question, the one I want sitting in your chest after this ends. If you had to teach yourself something difficult starting tonight, with no one watching, no one grading, no one telling you whether you were getting better, would you continue past the third week? Most people answer Rucka the moment they're honest with themselves. The ones who answer yes and are the ones the system is afraid of. One more thing before you close this. Everything I can't put on YouTube lives on Patreon now. The harder breakdowns, the audio podcast, the full written scripts, the work that's too sharp to publish here. It's $4.99 a month. Click the link in the description and join me on Patreon, pinned in the comments too. Most will go back to sleep. Don't be like them. The door's open. See you on the other side. This is the actual danger, not the knowledge, the architecture. A person you cannot rank, cannot capture ideologically, cannot threaten with exclusion, and cannot shame socially as a person the system cannot model. And the system runs on models. The boss models the employee. The platform models the user. The political faction models the voter. The peer group models the member. When the model holds, everyone is predictable. When it doesn't, the apparatus around that person begins to malfunction. The self-taught person walks into rooms, and the room doesn't quite work the same way after. People sense it before they can name it. They feel the absence of the usual handles. The handles you use, unconsciously to figure out where someone fits and how to relate to them. The credentials handle is missing. The tribal handle is missing. The need for approval handle is missing. The fear handle is missing. They reach for something to grab and find smooth glass. And then one of three things happens. Some people become hostile. Others become deferential. A small number become curious enough to actually engage. The self-taught person watches all three responses without much emotional weight because they have already lived years without needing any of them. This is why power structures have historically tolerated self-taught individuals only when they could be co-opted, given a title, given an institutional home, given a reason to belong, and why the genuine ones, the ones who could not be co-opted, tended to die misunderstood, mocked, or quietly dangerous to whatever regime they were living under. So the rarity you sense in this kind of person is not what you thought it was. It's not their knowledge. Knowledge has never been more available. Everyone has access to the same texts, the same lectures, and the same archives any university student has, and most of it is free. It's not their intelligence. There are many credentialed people of equal or higher intelligence who will live their entire lives never producing one original thought. The rarity is the architecture, a mind built without a kit, a belief system personally verified, a range of thought that crosses sealed borders, a tolerance for failure that operates as a metabolism, a locus of evaluation that lives inside the skull, not in the room.